So this thing happened a few months ago. I went to India. My first cousin was getting married, so we left Boston for our connecting flight in Chicago. After boarding the plane, we stood there stationary for about half an hour.
That was me flying. So you have to run.
That was nice flying right there. Can you make the plane fly?
While in the Chicago airport, I tested the waters of airport vlogging. So I figure if I'm gonna do this vlogging thing, I might as well do it right and have people stare at me crazy at the airport as I talk to myself. Then we hopped on a plane for a quick jaunt to Brussels, Belgium. So we got to Brussels and we were pretty much miserable because our flight to Delhi had gotten delayed, so we ended up being in the airport for 7 hours. Now, I didn't manage to get any particularly interesting footage of the Brussels airport. One, because I felt awkward vlogging in front of my family, and two, because when I did manage to get away, I felt too gross to talk to a camera. What resulted was essentially 4 minutes of me dazedly rambling into my flip while filming a wall. That's right, I literally spent 4 minutes trying to say something eloquent about electrical sockets. Yeah. So finally we get on our plane, and we reach the Delhi airport about 9 hours later. At which point they informed us that due to fog and other technical difficulties, the plane could not land where it was supposed to. So we ended up exiting the plane via a staircase. We got off the plane and got on a bus which took us to the actual airport.
It's nicer than Logan Airport.
There was cool artwork. Oh, and trees. There were trees.
And there's a palm tree right next to Christmas tree.
Now, I'm going to assume you know nothing about Indian weddings, so there was partying, and there was eating, and there was dancing, and it was all around amazing. I fell sick during the day of the first big party, so originally I wasn't planning on attending, but my aunt called me up, and she said, "You know what, Michelle? Get out of bed. You're coming to watch the dance performance." So I braved the cold. Yes, India actually gets chilly at night. And attended the party dressed in frumpy Western clothes, ultimately looking like a complete idiot. The performance started shortly after I got there, and let's just say it was amazing. So amidst all this partying and dancing and celebrating, there are actually tons of ceremonies. Unfortunately, I felt a little uncomfortable taking footage of any of these. Still, I did manage to get some footage. My sister and I wore saris the day of the wedding, which require lots and lots of fabric.
You're using your video camera?
I'll do, yeah.
You need a still picture.
I'll get a still picture too.
The men had to get their head wrapped in an equally ridiculous amount of fabric as well. The ceremony itself was lovely. Speaking neither Hindi nor Punjabi myself, I understood nothing of what was said. The emotions in my family members' faces were pretty much enough to know that what was occurring was something beautiful. Suffice it to say, the week I spent in India was amazing, but to be completely honest, it was really hard for me too. The thing I hated most when I came back was being asked the question, "How was your trip?" Because based on everything I've just told you, save for maybe the less than enjoyable journey there, I should easily be able to say amazing. But here's why I'm not a good vlogger. The things I most wanted to film are the things I didn't film. Amidst all the over-the-top parties and extravagant dinners, there was a very real and very large group of people sitting starving on the streets of Delhi. And then you see the other kind of people. The people in their newly redone 4-story houses with white marble and more food than you could possibly need. People like my family. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my family to death. And to be honest, I am equally guilty of being spoiled back here in America. But what I've realized is we have this thing in the world where people find the need to separate things. And you know, sometimes this can be good, like separating the trash from the recyclables, or the axe murders from the innocent children. But sometimes it's not so good. We separate by skin color, by sexual orientation, by where we live and what we eat, and whom we do or do not pray to. We separate by caste systems that supposedly no longer exist, but really do. Now, there are varying degrees of this separation, and sure, on a smaller level, I get it. We need our space. But sometimes it goes to the point where we only see the world as us versus them, or even worse, as just us. I will not lie to you. I love Punjabi weddings. They're crazy and ridiculous, and they're fun. But they're dangerous too. Because when you're singing along to a Bollywood song or watching your relatives dance their hearts out, it's very easy to forget that there's a them right outside the door. It becomes so easy to forget that people are starving, that people with medical problems go untreated, that the people driving us from party to party only get to see their daughters a few days a year so they can earn enough money for those daughters to survive. And it's even easier to forget that there really is no them, just facets of us. That's why I hate the question, how was your trip? Because yes, it was amazing and fun and exciting, but it was also emotionally confusing and troubling. But let me tell you this, despite all my conflicted emotions about what I saw and experienced in India, a lot of what I saw and experienced was beautiful too. I went through a really tough time emotionally in the week before I left, and being around so many wonderful people, so many wonderful family members I rarely get to see, was so absolutely amazing. Going to India, seeing these relatives, made me feel kind of like Harry at the Burrow. I was suddenly immersed into a whole new kind of family and love like I'd never before experienced. It was hectic and it was crazy and I didn't always understand what was going on, but it was so fulfilling. And as our driver transported my sister and I back to the airport during my final few hours in India, I cried. I cried for him, and I cried for his daughter, and I cried for all I personally was leaving behind. And as much as I knew I was returning home, I couldn't help but feel like I was leaving it behind, too.